Hey, what's up, everybody? And I am back. I told you I'd try to put some more videos out. For those that have followed me on social media, you'll know that in the past couple of weeks I received my Nikon Z9, and I was very happy with my D850 for what I was doing, but I have gotten more into filmmaking. In fact, I am wrapping up my first feature film that I've written, directed, and produced called The Great Dismal. You can kind of see some of the footage here while I continue talking. I actually shot that with the Z7, which is what I'm filming, what we're talking right now with is the Z7. But I've got a small complementary host of lenses that I'm using. For instance, right now I'm using the Viltrox 24 millimeter. This is Viltrox is a third-party lens that makes the Z mount, but they're the only third-party I know of that has the autofocus capability. And I've shared a couple of videos, just short, taking it out of a box, putting it on a camera, and seeing how the Viltroxes did in the past on this channel. So you can find that there. But anyway, this is being shot with the Z7, and the Z7 was my backup body to my D850 for everything but filmmaking. But I decided to get the Z9 because this does everything the D850 does, plus a lot more, and it's a lot better for filmmaking. So that's kind of where I'm headed with this. And this weekend, I had my first opportunity to use the Z9 strictly for sports, and I shot the Challenge Cup Finals, Pro Women's Soccer, National Women's Soccer League, and I was basically wanted to get kind of used to the body and the functions, and the focusing system is a lot different than like the D850 and even the Z7 there. So I was able to do that, and I also wanted to test the 120 frames per second stills that the Z9 will shoot, and I'm going to kind of move it over. I'll put it kind of right here front and center. At least you see the body that way. But I wanted to test that, test the different focus systems, and for instance, on the D850, I never used the 3D tracking. I did temporarily on this. I still am not a big fan of the 3D tracking, but I did use, instead of a single point focus, which is what I typically would use for the D850, I used the small area. And what that did is basically 3D tracking, but in a smaller spot. So I'm looking up at a screen while I talk to you here, so you can see where my face is here. So I could set that box on like center screen, like right here. And even though my face is slightly out, the Z9 would immediately box my face and then box my eyes. And it did it instantaneously. And I really was surprised at how fast the Z9 here was able to lock in focus on eyes, even when I was shooting 50 yards downfield. I put together some of the images that I shot, and also the Z9 shoots 120 frames per second stills, but it'll shoot it up to 1 second before pressing the shutter button. So if I'm tracking, if I'm following the play along, and I've got this button half pressed for focus, it's finding the player, and then as long as I've got it like that, when I press that button, the previous second of whatever happened was stored in the buffer on this, and it gave me 120 frames per second for that. And so I put together this short video here, and again, these are professional women's soccer in the Challenge Cup Finals, the championship game. And you can see how the camera kept the focus. This was shot at 1/5000th of a second at f2.8. And here I slowed this down. You can see the water coming off the player's head there. You can see the impact of the ball I mean, it just worked phenomenal. And I shot again 1/5000th of a second at f2.8 with auto ISO, and the reason for the auto ISO is it was cloudy and it actually rained for part of it. That's why you see the raindrops coming off one of the players' heads when the ball made contact. But I was really pleased with this. In fact, that last little slow-mo montage, that happened at the top of the 18, about midfield as far as width-wise. I'm over in the corner. So that was a good 40 yards from me, if not a little bit more than that. And I used the Tamron 70-200, the first generation. And it was attached to the first generation FTZ adapter. So the very first FTZ that came out is what I had on this, and then I had a third-party lens, the 70-200, on that in a F mount. And I mean, you see, it kept everybody in focus throughout. So I was very pleased with that. Now, what does this mean for the rest of the channel? We're gonna talk a lot about this Z9 actually as I continue filming. Again, I've got I'm wrapping up the Great Dismal, which is a full-length feature film that I've written, produced, and directed. Casted. I've kind of been the guy wearing all the hats, and we're just about done with it. I've got most of it edited, but I do have some scenes we got to reshoot, that type thing. I'm also doing a documentary on, well, I guess the Great Dismal is a thriller, by the way, where there's been creature sightings in the Great Dismal Swamp, and a journalist goes out on an assignment to kind of find out what's behind those sightings. I've got another film I'm actually shooting right now. It's a documentary, and it's got to do with something somebody told me that I kind of followed up on and kept getting more information about it. But it's a documentary on aliens and the U.S. government. That's going to be probably about an hour runtime, and so both of these kind of going congruently here. So, I don't know which one will come out first. A documentary is going to be a whole lot easier to edit than the Great Dismal will be. But anyway, the Z9, we're going to talk about it a lot more as I go forward. I'm going to talk about me moving into filmmaking, and I'll, of course, talk about sports with this as well, because I still am a sports photographer. In fact, I've got some stuff coming up this weekend in which I'll use this. I probably won't use that 120 frames per second pre-release very often, just in very select systems. But even so, it shoots 20 frames per second, 30 frames per second, 120 frames per second. So I can make this thing kind of do whatever I want it to do. I actually set the custom continuous low on this to kind of match what the D850 did at 8 frames per second, because I was so used to it. But one thing to go into 120 frames per second, if you don't know, let's see if I can, I don't know if it's going to show it here, but this button right here is, see if I can get the focus where I want it. This button right here is the magic to that 120. You set the backside dial indicator on that multiple shot mode, and then you press that button, and then when you do that, then you can turn it up to that 120 frames per second to get that pre-release 120 frames, and it's phenomenal. Anyway, look, thank you for visiting with me, and I hope to have some more of this stuff to you very, very soon, and until next time, we'll see you later.